Hello, this is Sascha Fahl from Leibniz University, Hannover in Germany. I'm sorry for being not able to be there in person, but I still hope to be able to give you a good overview of our project, where the insecure things are easy-to-use identification of insecure and privacy-leaking IoT devices. So Internet of Things or IoT devices become more and more ubiquitous in daily life. Users use IoT devices, use internet-connected networks devices for many purposes. So there is Amazon's Dash button. We have light bulbs that are connected to the internet. We have media routers. We have IP cameras, and lots of more devices that have an always-on connection to the internet that collect user data, process user data locally, and send user data to remote services in the cloud. With the rise of IoT devices, new threats to security and privacy came up. So we have more and more devices that have an active and always-on network connection to the internet, and that of course increases the available attack surface. So there are many more devices connected to the internet. That increases the risk of new security vulnerabilities, new privacy leaks. And it is that there is no regulation for IoT devices, so there is no requirement for IoT devices to implement security, to implement privacy features to a certain degree. And it is as so often as we already had in the past, the easiest and the cheapest way to have some level of security and privacy is to go without it. So we already saw in the past many IoT devices with bad security, bad privacy, or with even worse, no security, no privacy at all. And to make things even worse, it is that not just companies like Amazon or other tech companies bring up new IoT devices. It is that even more and more non-tech companies have the idea of new IoT devices, introduce new IoT devices without consulting security and or privacy experts. So we have, for example, hairdryers that have an always on internet connection. One result of the increase of IoT devices we saw over the last couple of years is a botnet epidemic. So we saw the Satori botnet, we saw the Mirai botnet, the Andromeda botnet, and so on and so on. And all those botnets, they exploited insecure, vulnerable IoT devices to build new botnets and to then steal sensitive information from affected users, from infected devices of affected users, or to use the IoT devices to run large-scale, for example, denial of service attacks. So we have those insecure, vulnerable IoT devices on the one hand that got turned into botnets in the past, but we also have new privacy concerns coming up with the many IoT devices we saw in the recent past. So we had, for example, a company that sold a sex toy, and it was an IoT or is an IoT device. So a sex toy that records users sessions and sends them to a remote server, and this is clearly a privacy violation. But we also had a case in the US where local police in Arkansas requested access to Amazon Echo's recordings of a certain user to work on a murder case. So with all those new IoT devices collecting more and more privacy relevant and sensitive information from their users, we saw and we will in the future see even more new privacy concerns coming up. So we have all those companies implementing bad security, implementing bad privacies, and we, of course, should try to make them a better job in the future. But who is also part of the problem is end users. So coming back to the Mirai botnet, it is that this specific botnet used a list of roughly 70 default credentials to infect new network devices, to infect new Mirai bots. So what end users could, in theory, have done, they could, even novice users, they could have compared their devices, their login credentials, with vulnerable credentials the Mirai botnet used. So they could easily have logged into their device, check their credentials, and in case their credentials were affected, were vulnerable, so were on that list of the 68 default credentials the Mirai botnet used to infect new devices, they could have simply spotted that and changed their login credentials to different login credentials, and then would not have been vulnerable to the Mirai botnet. But the problem in that case was that most end users simply were not aware of the problem. So the Mirai botnet was all over the news, all over the tech news at least. But most, as we all know, end users are not very tech savvy, though they simply were not aware of the problem and were not aware of how to fix it. And another problem, of course, also was that not all users had the skills to change credentials. So even if it is only or if it only required logging into to a web form and then changing credentials, even that might have been too complicated for some users. So it is a mix of a lack of awareness and a mix of a lack of awareness and the needed skills that are not available to all users. So the idea of our project is to help users or to provide users an easy-to-use way to identify vulnerable devices. So we have the idea of developing IoT Droid. It is going to be a smartphone application. We were thinking of a smartphone application because it is very easy to install. So most smartphone users know how to install a new application from either Apple's App Store or the Google Play Store for Android. We implement and design IoT Droid with usability in mind. So usability for IoT Droid is a first-class object, and in the end, we hope to achieve widespread usage. So we want to have as many users as possible, so IoT Droid can help as many users as possible. IoT Droid mainly will consist of three features. Feature number one will be highlighting and identifying vulnerable devices. To achieve that, IoT Droid, once it is started, it will in the background scan the local network the device is logged into for open ports and for common network protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, Telnet, and so on. And our application will test default and obviously insecure credentials, like the credentials the Mirai botnet and other botnets and other lists of default credentials and insecure credentials uses. So the first feature will help to spot and to spot insecure and maybe privacy leaking IoT devices and help users find them. The second feature will help to point out vulnerable applications. So it is that many IoT devices come with control applications. So to adjust settings or to use extended features of an IoT device. And it of course can be that also those control applications come with vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, and privacy leaks maybe. So the second feature IoT Droid will include is identifying those applications and help users to or point users to those applications, and in case updates fixing those security privacy issues are available, encourage users to update those applications, maybe uninstall those applications, but at least inform users about insecure privacy leaking applications in case they have them installed. And the third and final feature will be a network traffic analyzer. So IoT Droid will act as a man in the middle and analyzing network traffic between IoT devices and the internet. Therefore, we will exploit a built-in Android VPN feature, and IoT Droid will gather information about those IoT to internet connections, and by that being able to identify internet connections that use, for example, plain HTTP connections, not using encryption, or identifying internet connections to China, for example. We have a current prototype which already offers a solid foundation and already is able to scan arbitrary network devices for open ports, for common protocols, network protocols. It is already able to test login credentials. We are currently researching, are currently working on the man in the middle feature. So we are already able to sniff traffic, but we still have to fine tune it. And we are running security analysis of those IoT control apps to find security vulnerabilities, to find privacy issues. We also already have some design mock-ups, so there will be a default scan option that will be very easy to use, and that will scan the most sensible settings for the average scenario. So it'll scan for the most common ports, for the most common network protocols, and it will also store past scans. So in case users fix some security issues, some privacy issues, they can run new scans in the future and compare their new scans to old scans. IoT Droid will have an iterative scanning process feature, so it'll visualize the progress of current scanning progress, and by that will help the user to get an idea of how long a running network security analysis will take. And the scan results will show an overview, and details will be available. The results can be saved for later comparison or sharing with other users, but we still need to work on the wording and on the usability. So over the course of the next year, we plan to further extend the scanning for more already existing and for new vulnerabilities that for sure will come up in the next couple of months. We will add the scanning for vulnerable apps features. So we will include the list of vulnerable applications in IoT Droid, and we will also work on gathering further data through the built-in VPN feature to further extend the man in the middle feature. And we are planning multiple user studies to study and to improve the usability of IoT Droid. Okay, so if you're interested in the project, if you're interested in more details, please feel free to reach out to us. You can contact us via our website, you can send us an email, but we also have a Slack channel, so a couple of possible channels to contact us. Thank you very much.